Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark from SineWave, and today we're going to cover an important topic of WAN profiles. Pretty basic topic, but I see this, some folks having problems with this often. But in this instance, we're going to be working with Cradlepoint. As you can see here, we're in NetCloud Manager. But first, what is a WAN profile? So WAN profile defines the interface or modem interface and how it connects, disconnects, and communicates with other WAN profiles to understand its status and their status. We're also going to go over some basics of WAN profiles, which will include which profiles are my routers using, how do I know the priority of my profiles, how do I fail from my primary to my secondary WAN profile, and how do I fail back to my primary WAN profile. There's also a fifth topic we're going to cover, very slight fifth topic I think will help clean things up for everybody and kind of explain what's going on. So with that, let's get started. And as you can see here, we're in groups. We're not in devices. You could do this in groups or devices. However, if you do not know the difference between the two or you're unfamiliar, I would highly encourage you to go back into our YouTube video that's entitled NCM Overview, because we will not be covering the differences in this video. We also did a video called NCM Multi-WAN Configuration, which covers a lot of the custom APNs, or excuse me, custom profiles that has custom APNs in it. But we won't be covering that either. It's nothing custom. It's nothing advanced. So we'll just be covering some very basic stuff. So with that, as you can see, we're in groups, and we're going to use this configuration here, or this group right here. And we'll be presented our WAN profiles, and there's a lot of them. And this is where I think I've seen some confusion come in. As you know, like if you have a Cradlepoint router, you have one SIM in there, even two SIMs, but only one modem. You notice there's a lot of cellular profiles here. So right out of the gate, there are two profiles that are legacy profiles that Cradlepoint continues to add into NCM. I'm not really sure why, but they will never be used. They're not used. It doesn't matter what router you have. They're just not used. So you can delete those. The first one is 3G only modems. We'll delete that guy. And the second one is LTE only. LTE only modems. You can delete that one too. Now, we're left with two cellular WAN profiles. 5G LTE and LTE/3G. Depending on the router you have will determine which one of these you're going to connect to. If you have a 5G device, it will always use this 5G LTE multi-mode modem. Even if that router does not connect to 5G, let's say it goes to, you're on 5G, and then it downgrades to 4G because you're traveling, you left the 5G spectrum or the 5G area, right? Or you just fire your kit up, your router up, and you only connect to 4G. It is still used in this profile, hence the 5G/LTE modem, multi-mode modems profile. Conversely, if you have a 4G modem or 4G router, it will only use this profile right here. There's one exception, one caveat to that. If you have a router that has a 4G router that has a secondary modem in it, that is a 5G secondary modem, then it will use both. The router will use the 4G side because there's a 4G modem in there, and then the secondary modem you have installed will use this 5G LTE modem, as long as it's a true 5G secondary modem. Some examples of that is like the R920. Don't get confused with the R980. The R920 is a 4G device, but it does come, or you can get a dock for it and then add a secondary modem, and that secondary modem could be a 5G modem. So therefore your router would use the 4G side, and that secondary modem would use the 5G side. Outside of that, this will only be for 4G routers and devices. This will only be for 5G routers and devices. So I am using the R1900. The R1900 is a 5G device. Therefore, it will always use this profile here, never ever this profile. So we can delete that one. If you have a 4G device, you just do the opposite, right? Just delete this one here. All right, that cleans this up a lot. So let's go back to our other 4 points that we're going to cover. This kind of goes over which profiles your router will connect to. And again, my router is a 5G device, therefore it's going to connect to this profile here. And if I have an Ethernet connected to it, it will connect to this Ethernet profile here. And then the priority can be adjusted by dragging these down. So I can move these around, much like an ACL or access control list on your firewall. You can modify these and it will read top to bottom. So in this instance, it's going to read and say, hey, I'm going to try to connect to Ethernet. If it fails, doesn't connect, it'll go down to the cellular side. Try to connect there. If it fails, it'll go down to Wi-Fi's WAN, even if you don't have it configured. And it'll try to connect there, and it'll keep doing that circle through this tree here to connect. So that's the profile priorities. The next question or the next topic is failing from your primary to your secondary. How can we do that and do it in a graceful way, in a way that's repeatable, in a way that just makes sense? So for that, we're going to click on one of these cogs. It doesn't matter which one you click on. They'll all go to the same spot, but it'll just take you to these different tabs depending on which one you click on. As a side note, we're going to cover really quick connection state. And here you can see we have connect as needed, which all of them are on by default or using by default. We have standby and always on. Always on, self-explanatory. Standby is where the WAN profile will actually connect, but it will not pass traffic until it is the active profile. So if I use this on my primary, it's going to use that first, so it's not going to stay in standby, it's going to be always active. But if I have this on my secondary, my cellular side, it'll connect, it just won't pass traffic. If you want to know more about that, this little question mark here will pop this window out, and when you hover over things, it'll tell you. In this case, it just shows you all those definitions there and what they mean and what they'll do. Next, let's go to WAN verify. So going back to how do I fail from my primary to my secondary WAN profile. On your primary WAN profile, you want to configure WAN verify, and we don't need to worry about failback. Failback, however, is on. You don't need to worry about it. Just leave it as default. That's fine. But on our primary, we want to define how are we failing from that primary to our secondary. So in that case, I want to establish this IPv4 while connected and turn that into one of these three here. On an Ethernet side, it is recommended to use active ping or active DNS. Conversely, on a cellular side, if cellular is our primary, I would encourage you to use passive DNS, because if you use active ping, active DNS, some carriers do not like that, and you may not get the response that you want. So passive DNS is your best bet on cellular, if that is your primary WAN profile. In this instance, I have Ethernet, i.e. Starlink, so I can pick active ping, active DNS. I like active ping. We'll do Google DNS. And then we're left with this here, these other default settings. So idle interval check, it's going to check every 30 seconds. It's going to retry every 8 seconds for 5-time count. If you need to modify this, if that is too short, if that is too long, you can obviously put different numbers in here. Again, this question mark is your friend. It'll hover over things. It'll tell you what each one of these means. And then you can adjust accordingly to how you want it to fail over. Again, we'll skip failback on our primary. Then we'll go into our secondary. Click on any of these cogs, doesn't matter. And we will leave WAN verify alone because it's our secondary. We don't need to verify that WAN. If it fails, we're going to have our primary pickup. We're going to use failback. So how do I fail over, or excuse me, how do I fail back to my primary WAN off of my secondary WAN profile? And this here we can do, by default, it's usage. So it has to meet this criteria before, 90 seconds, under 20 kilobits, or 20 kilobits or below. And we have a dummy thing here. We can select high and it'll automatically adjust it for you. Or we can do custom, right? So I can set this to whatever I want it to be. So we can use usage. We can use time, self-explanatory, or we can use immediate. Again, self-explanatory. Now, one thing I forgot to show, let me back up here. In our primary, we'll come back to what I just showed you there. We're going to come back to that 1 second. On our primary WAN, we can check enable stability check. This means this WAN is going to test itself for 10 seconds to say, yes, I am a valid working WAN profile. I'm a valid internet source. It's going to take 10 seconds to do that. After 10 seconds, it's going to say, hey, I'm good. We can adjust that to whatever you want. So if 10 seconds is too short, we can do 20, 30, whatever you want to do. You just add it here. I'll put it back to default. Keep this in mind, the stability check. This will become relevant here in just a second. Under failback, if I do usage, it's going to fail back under this criteria, but first it's going to make sure that it has a valid WAN source to fail back to. So that stability check we just did on our primary WAN, I have it set to 10 seconds, that's the default. It's going to take 10 seconds for that to become a valid WAN source to where this, after this period times out, it's going to say, are you good? And if that 10 seconds has already elapsed and it's been stable that long, it's going to hand it off. If I put 20 seconds, it's going to hand it off after 20 seconds, as long as it's a stable connection. That's relevant because if you do immediate, that supersedes that stability check. That stability check doesn't mean anything. Once this secondary WAN source fails over back to the primary, it's going to immediately do it no matter what. If that stability check hasn't been done yet, so be it. It's still getting it. It's still getting the primary WAN. Like, it's still going to be active as a primary WAN. So just keep that in mind with that stability check. If you use it, I like it. It's really nice, but just, I would say immediate is not a good idea if you're using stability check. You can do time. We can correlate this with that same stability check, 10 seconds. If I do 20 seconds on the stability check on my primary WAN source, I'd probably want to make this 20, maybe 25 to give it some time, just to make sure, make sure it actually took it 20 seconds. Give it a little extra time. That would probably be a smart move, but just immediate would supersede any stability check that you do on your primary WAN source. And that really covers it. So we did cover which profiles is my router's using. How do we know the priority of those? How do I fail over from my primary WAN source to my secondary WAN source? And how do I fail back from my secondary WAN source to my primary WAN source? By the way, it doesn't matter which one. If I have Ethernet here, the rules still apply. Just know that in WAN verify, we want to not use active or any active ping or DNS. We want to stick with passive. And stability check is great to have on. Just know on your secondary WAN source down here, we want to make sure that we do not use immediate if we expect to have the stability check function. And with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can email us at any time. We have created content for other customers out there that just said, hey, we want to know how to do X, Y, and Z. We do that all the time, at least when we're asked. So you can reach out at support@synwave, that's SYNWAVE.io. Thank you.